I'm telling you.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the October 15, 2013 meeting of the Town of Manchester Planning and Zoning Commission. Just like to make mention, former Mayor Lippy had passed away on Sunday. His funeral is slated tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. at Trinity Church. First item on the agenda is approval of the September 25th, 2013 minutes.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion's been made and been seconded to approve the minutes as written. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Good evening, Michelle. Do you have anything on the Board of Zoning Appeals?
No, we have had no boards and appeals hearings. As you do know, though, just the development of the Valley Hill is complete. There are no more permits in there, and we probably have about another 8 left in right now. There's from 6.
I'm sorry, you said how many?
60 in there.
And that was Manchester Farm 6.
Yes, and both Alex and Henry, if you were out last month, and we did approve the concept plan for section 7, so
Okay.
as soon as he starts getting some reviews back from the county, I'm sure we'll see him back.
Very good. Steve, have anything for the town?
I have two things real quick. First of all, I brought the mayor and council up to speed last week in regards to our water supply. Going into last week, some of our wells were showing some signs of stress, but fortunately, we were able to pick up an average of 5 inches of rain over a period of 3 days, and it helped lower our numbers, so I did ask the public to conserve on that. Also, the other item, the council at the October 8th meeting did agree to purchase the property at 3337 Victory Street, which is the Dr. Middleton property. That's on the corner of Victory and Christmas Tree Lane. So we'll be doing the settlement here over the next several months. That was a good move for the town because the property does butt up against Christmas Tree Park property, and also the property has, actually, the building has a lot of options for the town to go with. So we're putting together an internal task force to see what our best move is, what department we want to move into that building, and we'll go from there.
Very good. Councilwoman Black, do you have anything you want to add for the council portion?
No, I don't.
Okay, great. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I am good. How about yourself?
I have no complaints. Of course, nobody's listening because the government's shut down, but that's a whole other story. So please join us.
All righty. I have a couple things that I want to briefly talk about.
I did. Yes, I
Ready?
did.
But, this is our annual,
Thank you.
what we call our Maryland Department of Transportation priority letter.
Okay.
And,
Thank you.
we do this every year, and it basically includes priority projects throughout the entire county. And this letter was completed July 30th. This is the first planning commission meeting we've had that I could actually hand this out. I'm sorry. Sure. You're very welcome. I believe all of the, excuse me.
Thank you.
Yeah, the CC list, I just wanted to verify, all of the mayors and council members for all of our towns got a copy of this, but I like to also hand it out to planning commission members because it gives you an idea of what the top priority, I think I was a little close there, top priority projects are countywide. And I'd like to draw your attention to item number 7, which is Maryland 30 Manchester Congestion Relief. This project would involve a study to look at the specific causes of congestion along Main Street and look at critical choke points and identify possible congestion management solutions. That's in the near term. Further down the page, you see under long-range transportation planning, Maryland 30 Manchester Bypass. So that's more of a long-range project. You're welcome to look at the entire document, but I thought those two items would be of particular interest. One other thing. This is actually Steve Miller's copy. This is a hard copy of the 2012 Land Preservation Parks and Recreation Plan. This was updated, actually finished this year, and we have Barb Kearney in my office to thank for kind of working with the Maryland Department of Planning on some questions and issues that they had. So she basically wrapped it up, and this is a hard copy for, the town office. This is also available on the county website. If you go to the Bureau of Comprehensive Planning and look under functional plans, it's the Land Preservation Parks and Recreation Plan. And it has some good information here on parks and recreational facilities throughout the county, including within all the towns, an inventory of those facilities, looking at needs, demand, and so forth. And there's some good information in here as well on agricultural land preservation, which is pretty much in the county, strictly the county, and natural resource conservation. This document is particularly important for local jurisdictions to be eligible for POS, Project Open Space funding. So again, this is a hard copy for the town. And those are the two things I just wanted to bring up briefly. Any questions at this time? Okay. Thank you.
Alex, I have something. I just
Sure.
wanted to publicly thank Bobby Moser and Mike Roberts for the county. They were very, very helpful in putting together maps for our sustainability community application. So they were very helpful. The entire county staff is very helpful. So I want to thank them. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on. Next item, the Water and Sewer Master Plan update. Andrea, and I hope I say this right, Gerhard?
That's me.
Very good.
So, just gonna give everybody a revised chapter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, next week, few days. Okay, just wanted to update everybody a little bit.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm really short. Okay. And I apologize for my technological issues that I was having this evening, but I will do my best to let you know everything that was on those slides. So I'm here today just to talk to you about the Water and Sewer Master Plan. This plan is actually quite important for a number of reasons. Number one, it is a mandated plan from the state. It has to be done every 3 years. And one of the things that's really important is that in order for a project to be permitted by Maryland Department of the Environment, it has to be in this document. So we do one document for the county as well as all the municipalities together, and we turn it in as just one comprehensive plan. So just to give you a little update as to the chronology of all this, this initial draft started, we finished a draft November 2011. We turned it into the Maryland Department of the Environment, and we heard back from them in March of 2012. They partially approved our plan and partially disapproved our plan. The part that was approved was our history. So therefore, they sent us back to the drawing board for pretty much everything else. The reason why is that this master plan, or Water and Sewer Master Plan, was very different from the county's perspective and also from the state's perspective. What we tried to do is we tried to be kind of progressive. Since the last Water and Sewer Master Plan, the water resources element had been adopted, and the water resources element is a document that was mandated for Maryland Department of Planning. And the Water and Sewer Master Plan is mandated by Maryland Department of the Environment. So we thought that we would take the two, kind of put them together, thought that maybe we were doing something progressive. And we did ask the state's approval as we were doing all of this, and they said that was fine. But it turned out they weren't really a fan of how we did it. They wanted us to go back to COMAR, which is the state's regulations. So that was one of the things that was now very different. These are two totally different methodologies, one that's in the Water and Sewer Master Plan and one that's in the Water Resources element. It's like apples and oranges. You cannot combine the two. So once we heard that that's something that they wanted, we really had to go back to the drawing board. It also changed our way of thinking. It used to be, in Carroll County anyway, that if a property was put in your future category for water and sewer, it would be served in the future. Not necessarily in a timetable or something, but eventually, since the plans did derive from the 30-year water and sewer master plans, it's kind of where I think the thought process was going. The state decided to change their way of thinking with this particular triennial update. And what they said is, we want you to look at your service areas in 10-year increments. If you do not see that this property is going to be served within the next 10 years, we'd like you to take it out. And so we were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. we don't like that idea. We didn't want any of our municipalities to have to change their outer boundaries, especially if anybody was, adopting any tiers or anything like that. So with this triennial update, we created a new category called Plus 10, or long-range, long-term planning. These are properties that the municipalities did not feel would be served within the next 10 years, but we still had them as a served properties that we thought would be served in the future. Now, any property that was within the 10 years, the state were now going to mandate us to show how we were going to serve them. So if you had this property in there and you don't have capacity for it, you have to show that there's a capacity adding project in the works with that, whether or not it was when this development happens, this well will be brought online, or when this development comes online, they'll do an expansion to our wastewater treatment plant. But whatever the case may be, there was now a requirement to show these projects, and this is something that has never been asked of us before. So it definitely changed everything from the town's perspectives as well as from the county's perspectives as well. So we got this feedback back in March of 2012. We had a meeting with the state in July trying to get a better idea of what exactly it was that they were looking for. And from pretty much October to December, I met with all the municipalities trying to make sure that we were representing exactly what the municipalities wanted us to represent in this plan. After all, this is the town's plan as much as it's the county's plan. So we looked at all of these municipalities. A lot of them had a deficit based on the way that we used to think about water and sewer planning. So if there was a deficit, there were two steps that had to happen. First step, please give us all of the capacity adding projects that you plan on or anticipate being done in the next 10 years. After that, I worked all those numbers off the deficit, and if there was no more deficit, that's fine. But if there still was, properties then had to be put into that new plus 10 category. And the state was understanding if a property is in that new category, we don't necessarily know how it's going to be served. So that was a benefit of putting it into the plus 10. It also, if you put it in the plus 10, it did not count towards our deficit. So that's something that was important to know as well. So after meeting with all the municipalities and our own planning commission as well, we turned in a draft in December of 2012, and we did receive comments back. There were a few municipalities who have had changes, so we've worked with everybody to incorporate any new changes that might have occurred. We've also checked throughout the document for consistency. We removed any of the water resources element that we might have had in there because frankly, people just found it confusing at the state, so we took all that away. And we are anticipating, in October, I'm going to all the planning commissions and asking for certification that it's consistent with your plan. In November, we anticipate going before the Planning Commission for Carroll County to ask if it's consistent with our master plan, our county master plan, and then to go to the Board of Commissioners for adoption in December, to send it to the state at the beginning of the year. I do have the But first, if it's okay, I just want to show you how this chapter that I gave you is different from the chapter that you might have received previously. After talking to Steve and Michelle, they got this copy as well, and they were able to provide me with some feedback. So just want to tell you that in the third paragraph of the first page, pretty much right in the middle where you see that the current storage system is a floating system, which means that there are 3. Before there just said that there was 2. So Steve had asked us to change it to put that there were 3. Under the water allocation, which is on, I believe, page 55, if you get there. Yes, the allocation procedure. This came right out of the town code now. Before there was a lot of different language in there about developers having to bring their own water in. But now it talks about the $14,500 fee that would be required for each EDU. And like I said, I just took this language directly out of your code. And the last change I'm going to actually show you on this larger map. And I will pass it kind of up there for you to see. There are these properties right here that are outside of the town, and we had them as served, but they shouldn't be in there. So the capacity numbers or demand numbers also on those tables in the back have also changed to reflect that. So I don't know exactly how to do this, but I'll kind of, is it okay if I pass this to you?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then I'll pass the water one the other way. And I understand it's a lot of information kind of thrown at you at one time, but
This is the same one that's in
and,
That's the same thing's in here.
oh yeah, yeah. The sewer one was the one that changed, but I just brought the in case
Okay.
anyone wants to see a bigger one.
There's 2 or no in.
Did you want to see the bigger one?
There's the school.
I'll put
Right.
it up here.
So that's on Beaver Street.
Well, there's Beaver,
Oh, yeah, you're right. And then the back
Right,
What
so
was she
this-
saying? This isn't
this is
supposed to be
vertical,
here.
vertical.
No, this is
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, which were white on the sewer.
Looking at my phone.
And this is the same map now that is in your document as well for both water and sewer. So, if anybody has any questions about anything, or I'm happy to answer anything that Manchester was actually a very unique case because they were, after the capacity adding projects, they were no longer in a deficit. But I still met with Michelle and Steve, and they decided there were just 2 properties, I believe, that wanted to be put into that they wanted to be put in the plus 10. So that was not out of necessity. There was, after the capacity adding projects, there were no deficit.
This isn't online yet. right? And that's the one behind sheet. I think that was taken out.
That's,
There it is, 27.
Are you guys ready for this or not?
Huh? Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Did you fold that by yourself?
Yes, I did.
Other than those few things, all the other information is exactly the same than what was in the packet provided.
You guys want to look at this?
Yeah. It's in the paper, right?
Any questions or comments for Angela?
Is the new pump station, I see it mentioned in here, but has that been revised? The new
Pump out at the high school.
Yeah, I think reading through, I think reading through is talking about the Lippy thing, that it's gonna happen, but it pretty much has happened.
It has not, that is not in line yet. So
Okay.
as the day of this report, we have to show it.
Okay.
you have anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, I'm here just to answer any questions if anybody had any.
Great, thank you.
And the maps can be for the town if you guys want to hold on to. Otherwise, I can take it with me, whichever. Okay.
No comment?
Good, we worked with the engineering service throughout the whole entire project.
Any questions for Andrew?
I make a motion, we accept the changes as provided.
I second that motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded to accept the revisions as shown. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, Lions Club fence update. Michelle, do we have anything? on-
I have not heard from either group.
Okay,
It was left that it was to be, put off for this month for them to determine, and the groups to get a chance to meet and determine, and I don't think any of that happened. I see that we have some representatives from the fire department, so you might wanna ask.
just to go for the record, I've seen their representatives from the Lions Club. I just want to make that announcement just to make sure before I move forward. Okay? Mr. Dell, would you like to make a comment for the fire company, please?
Richard Dell, President of the Fire Department. After your meeting last month, the Lions Club members followed me out the door and we had a little meeting out on the sidewalk. At which time they suggested that maybe we could work together and put a gate on that 3-foot opening. Sounded like a good idea to me. Took it back to our company meeting, was unanimously rejected. They wanted it shut.
Okay?
So I know there's a lot of personality problems, and that's where most of this lies. So there's nothing, I tried.
Did you make contact with the Lions Club about that move? So they're,
They were gonna call me to set up a meeting, and I had never heard a word.
okay. Did anybody from the fire company, as we got closer to this date, make an attempt to reach out to them? Okay. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I have things to add, but
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, so we've sent the Lions Club a letter stating what was in the record, that we believe that that fence was to be from the end of their chain link fence that was approved for the additional section of the pool to the end of the property to the west. We have no response as far as we know that there is no closure to that section of the fence. That's where we stand now. Comments from the board?
As I understand it, our only real action on this was the approval of a chain link fence, as a chain link fence is not permitted by code. The desire to have the continuation was as a result of two property owners coming to a understanding of some sort that there needed to be a divide there, mostly to preclude vehicles from going from one side to the other. At this point in time, I see no action that this board should be taking or needs to take. This is a dispute between two adjacent property owners. Both parties have the right to close that on their side, subject to conformance with zoning regulations, getting a proper zoning certificate. I mean, that's the way I view this at this point in time.
I agree with Bob.
The only comment I want to throw in there was a concession that, when the chain link expansion was requested, it was a concession at the time because of the concerns from the fire department. And it was, added to what was required and then agreed on, so I still have trouble with the wording and what we passed and what was complied with. I see your side, but then in addition, it says that it should be a continuous from the fence to the end of the property. And they haven't complied with what was approved, so, you know, I'm leaning towards a motion that they have to close it to be in compliance with what was originally approved, and it's only, it's about $45 in lumber to complete the entire process. It's one more piece of split rail post and 3 half pieces of split rail. It's actually, yeah, maybe 40 inches. So one piece of split rail cut down. So, you know, we've already wasted, you know, I want to say 4 to 5 hours over a $35 item. And they're not in compliance with what was originally written. That's the comments I wanted to make on the subject.
If you're looking for a motion, I would make one at this time.
You can.
I make a motion that the Lions Club complete the split rail fence extending from the new fence to the end of the property to prevent travel on the Manchester Volunteer Fire Department property. And I think that'll end this long-standing issue that we need to complete tonight.
I agree with
Before
you.
we take action on that, I have a question for Michelle. What authority do we have to render a decision that someone needs to complete a fence that does not require action by the planning board? I don't disagree with
No,
any of the statements that have
I'm
been
on
made
both
here.
sides.
That was a very long discussion. There's been a lot of effort put into it. But that is not an element that I understand to be within our purview.
What is more clearly within your purview, and this is not necessarily something everybody else can obtain, but the chain link fence was approved conditionally, in a sense, with the split rail fence as an understood part of the approval.
That's the point I was making.
Right.
So whether you have authority to order the split rail fence is a harder question than you probably do have the authority to order them to take down the chain link fence.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Now, it's my understanding that there is no zoning certificate obtained
As
for
of
chain
yet.
link fence, though I think
So
that's,
that's the chain, yes, they got one, but they
Oh,
never
okay, I'm
came
sorry,
about one
misunderstood.
for the split rail.
did we go for the split rail?
We need one for anyone.
Oh,
But, they didn't come prior to, and then as soon as they put it up, they had the issue with the opening, and so it just hadn't been completed and given approval because they didn't know which way we were gonna approve it. So they do not have a existing zoning certificate for that fence.
And then the other thought that I had along those same lines were that they would have to take down the split rail, and then automatic permission would be granted to the fire department, put a split rail up from the corner, blocking off that property as a secondary solution. So we wouldn't have 2 back-to-back split rail fences. Somebody would have to move one. But My thought was at the end of the motion was that, that the split rail be finished because it was, the approval of the chain link was contingent. If not, they have to remove the chain link in 60 days. I think we're adding that right, but that's why this is in discussion.
I think you clearly have more authority over the chain link portion of the fence than you do over the split rail portion of it.
And since they were linked, that's fine.
They'll just say, I think this whole thing's disgraceful.
It is.
I'm just going to say it out, this is just ridiculous. That we've spent this much time over this issue when there are serious issues that this town has to deal with, like the water and sewer plan. I'm just putting it out there. I'm speaking for myself, but I think I reflect opinions of other people as well. That grown people can't resolve this simple issue is beyond me. We wonder why we can't fix a budget in Washington.
Larry, would you like to restate your motion, please?
I think for the good of the community, we need to settle the issue, just like we're talking here. It's gone on long enough. It's beginning to look like we're not foolish, but we're not really productive.
So, Michelle, just let me make sure I'm very clear on what you're saying. The chain link fence that we gave approval for and that the Lions Club received a zoning certificate for, we have much more to say over that. And the split rail fence really is an afterthought of the process.
I don't know that I'd call it an afterthought, but it is certainly a more attenuated issue to your authority. Your authority under the statute as to the chain link fence is very clear.
Right.
I was not present at the meeting, but I did watch the tape. And it is certainly my opinion that the assurance that there would be a barrier, and that is the word that's used in
Right.
the meeting. The assurance that there would be a barrier was clearly a significant factor in the decision to approve the chain link. I will keep, I don't have a firm, this is my absolute opinion. Honestly, I don't, partly because, again, I was really sort of hopeful that this thing could be resolved
Right.
without getting all lawyered up. But how much authority you have over the order to install the split rail fence? Is it a more difficult to answer question? I think if somebody said to me, do you have the authority to order them to take down that fence that you approved, I would say yes. It's harder to enforce the split rail portion of the order. But I think if pressed, it is part of the conditions of your approval of the chain link fence. Enforcement of these sorts of things is always problematic because the problems generally surface after the construction is complete. So then you've got folks not wanting to take down their X $1,000 fence, which seems to me why you should resolve something like this without it getting to the planning commission in the first place. But that too is editorial. So I don't know if that was a very wordy answer to your question.
No,
I'm not sure I answered it.
No, I appreciate you taking the time to make it very clear in my mind. So I would,
How about possible, this is possible sample wording to this motion. Sample wording of, make a motion that the, as a condition of the chain link fence that was granted, the split rail fence must be completed to adjoin the chain link fence and provide a barrier as per the instruction. And then do we add the failure to complete a split rail fence could move towards the possible having to remove the chain link fence? Do we go that far with it in the motion?
If that is the way the motion would be put forward, I would have to agree that they are in violation of their zoning certificate for the chain link fence, and therefore we have the authority to request removal within a timely period. I would question if a gate, as was suggested by the Lions Club, would meet the spirit and intent of a barrier from end to end, which would then put us in a situation where the fire company by right could put a solid stationary fence on their side of the property line. Presumably, the fence has been located appropriate to the property line and is not directly on or or across. I would have to ask the board what their opinion of the gate is, because the Lions Club has apparently made a suggestion as a way to comply. And before we put them in a situation where they have to remove a significant improvement, would that meet, in the board's opinion, conformance with the condition of that previous approval?
And my response is no. That's not considered a barrier. And then additionally, we've had testimony tonight that the property owner unanimously, the entire body voted against the gate. And based on that,
Yeah, but that doesn't get to Rob's question as to whether the Lions Club putting a gate on their property, not on the fire company's
Scott
property.
said he would not.
No, he doesn't, his interpretation, that's what I'm saying.
I would view that as completion within accordance with the plan. Not unlike a gate in the chain link fence, it is still a barrier
Right.
to prohibit people. Again, as I stated earlier, the fire company is more than within their rights to put, while it would look rather strange, a fence on their portion. They could go out there tomorrow and put a fence on their portion, they get a zoning certificate for it, and cover that gap. It's unfortunate, but it's possible.
How long's that, the chain link fence been in now?
That was August.
Oh, this year?
No,
No, August of last year?
last year.
August of last year is when it was approved.
Right.
So I think it went in before.
No, they put it in after the season closed.
After the season, but before this season, so.
Well, then I think we simplify. I think we say that we make a motion that they have to complete the fence. And if they propose a gate, we'd have to address it at that point.
Well,
Keep it simple.
I think, I don't think the gate's an unreasonable alternative to finish that on their side. It is sad that,
Although they haven't requested it from us, it's a third-party request. There was a discussion with the fire department. We don't
Well, I still
officially
take it as a sort of thumb in their nose at us that we took the trust between two entities to solve something, granted a zoning certificate for something to better the Lions Club pool, and I agree with the rest of the board that this hasn't worked out to be the most genuinely discussion ever. And I would just say that I think we need to enforce our decisions to the best we can, which is the proper thing to do, and whichever way that lands, that lands.
Agreed.
Agreed.
I have some minutes from the 21st August meeting, and it says the Lions Club was prepared to place a split rail fence extending from the new fence to the end of the property to prevent travel on the Fire Department property. That's in black and white right here. It says that they are prepared to do that. That's over a year ago. So I'm just reading what I'm saying. I think we need to get this settled.
All right, I can't disagree. I can't disagree. I think enough comments been said on this. Mr. Dell?
First of all, you said about the offset of the fence on the property line. Go up and take a look where it's at. It's sitting right on the property line. Their pin at the end of the fence is right on the property line. And it's a shame that they agreed to put this in from fence to the line. And if this board sees fit to let that open or put a gate on it, that's sad. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, gentlemen, ladies, I think we've debated this long and hard. Okay, we need to, I'd like someone to make a motion, and let's vote on it, and let's close this tonight, because I think we just keep throwing salt in the old wound even more, and it's not gonna get any better.
All right, I'll go at it. I make a motion that,
Hang on 1 second. Larry, you had
You had the original.
started to make a motion. Are you going to complete that motion, or are you going to withdraw your motion?
I don't need to complete, I did complete it, didn't I? I'm
Okay.
just sitting there listening to all this.
Okay, I just
and
want to be
it
sure.
really doesn't make
Michelle,
any
can you
difference.
read back?
I didn't get it.
No,
Okay.
because you were so low, I didn't hear exactly what you
Okay.
said. So you gotta
Okay.
say it a little louder.
Make a motion that the Lions Club complete the split rail fencing extending from the new fence to the end of the property to prevent travel on the Manchester Volunteer Fire Company property. That's just what was in the 21 August 12 minutes. So it's nothing new. Any
Okay.
discussion with that?
As a solid fence.
Second, and then you can.
Solid.
yeah, I second that.
Okay, we have,
Okay.
I second that.
okay, we have a motion. Michelle, you have the motion?
The Lions Club complete the split rail fence extending from the new fence to the end of the property to prevent travel onto the Manchester Fire Club.
Okay. That's the motion for the record. We have a second. Any further discussion?
Solid fence is your motion. I just want, I want to be clear, there's no questions here, that when you say fence, you mean solid fence.
No gate.
Okay, that's-
Solid fence.
okay.
That's
So there's
fine.
no question moving forward on this.
That's good. I'm glad we're clarifying. Yes, ma'am.
While you're clarifying, the word traffic has apparently been part of the issue. So do you want to, I don't know, whatever you want to do.
All
But do you
traffic
want to
in any
specify
form.
Pedestrian and vehicular.
Any form of traffic, pedestrian, vehicular, bicycle, wheelchair,
Me, ultimately.
any form of mobility.
So now we're not.
Don't get this too complicated.
We have to,
Do we have
Got
to
a
add a,
second.
do we have to add a failure to comply?
well, that was going to be my next question, actually, before we got to the vote.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, we have an amendment to add all traffic.
And
Okay.
that it's a solid fence.
Fence. Do I need a second for the amendment? I don't believe I do. Okay,
I second the amendment.
okay, we have a second on the amendment, okay, very good. Scott?
And
Any-
is there an amendment as to
Time frame.
the results, the timeframe, and what happens in the event that what has been happening continues to happen, which is to say nothing?
I think your failure to comply just triggers our next action. I think this is action one. I think that's action two.
Well, whatever.
I think that's
However
a
you wanna do
second.
it.
I think that's another.
So my question to you would be, is if we,
Do we give them a time frame in which they need to comply?
I agree with
Yes.
that, I have to say. I
If we're
think
going to
we-
do this, I mean, what's the point of leaving it open-ended? Then they can just say, you didn't specify, we just thought we
Right,
could do it
right.
next year.
I
would
have to
say
agree with.
by December 31st, 2013.
Right.
Which gives them a little bit over 2 months' time period to get it done.
Okay.
So we have another amendment noting that this must be completed by December 31st, 2013. Are you going, so we'll leave it there.
That's an amendment we want to second.
Okay, anybody second that amendment?
Yeah, good for a second there.
Okay?
Got the motion?
It's 3 amendments.
The whole thing as it is amended?
Yes.
Okay. The Lions Club complete the split rail fence in solid form, no gate, extending from the new fence to the end of the property to prevent all traffic, vehicular and pedestrian, onto the Manchester Volunteer Fire Department property. They must comply by December 31st, 2013.
Good. Okay.
Is everybody in agreement?
That sounds like
Okay.
what it was.
So we have a motion, we have it seconded, we have 2 addendums
Yep.
to that. They've both been added and seconded. So we have a full motion, ready to go for a vote. Any final discussion before we go to a vote? Okay. For the motion before us concerning the Lions Club fence, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered. Okay, moving on. Thank you all very much for your work on that. 3173 to 3175 Main Street, the Rendawa property, request for additional units. Did I bring my right package?
Yeah, I got one in here somewhere.
Oh, here it is. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Evening.
Requesting for 300 square foot efficiency apartment on 3175 Main Street. We got requested back in 2008. It was kind of approved, then they disapproved because of parking issues. May not have enough parking. And it's been 5 years, and I took some pictures of it. We never have found the parking. And there's only 2 rooms now, 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom apartment, anything like that. We're gonna change the look of the building will stay the same, it's gonna be the bottom floor.
Here it is.
So how many units do you currently have?
Yeah, I have it.
4? And your current provided parking is how many spaces?
8. Which I have a lot across the street, I've changed all that to parking spots.
The 4 units that currently exist, how many bedrooms are they?
They're all 2 bedrooms,
All 2 bedrooms.
this is just 2 rooms.
So you're asking for a 5th or a 6th?
Okay,
5th. All right.
And that would be a 2-bedroom also?
no,
One.
2 rooms, just kitchen and bedroom.
Studio?
Yeah,
Okay.
300 square foot.
And that's going to be in the basement,
Yes.
correct? What is this one document? Is this the old, is that, that's from 2000?
That's from 2008, when the case came before us after it went to the Board of Appeals. Board of
Do
Appeals
you happen to
had,
have with you by any chance a picture of, or a plan of what you had? It's been a while since, just wanted to maybe hit the board. Thank you, sir, I appreciate that. We'll give it right back to you. Thank you.
because by code, they were not meeting the on-site parking requirements for the 5th unit. And at one point in time, I believe there was a garage proposed for the lower level.
Nope, that's not it. Where's the parking pad?
Just architectural.
These are just for the actual building itself. It didn't have the, I thought these might have had the parking portion with them.
Did you have the
Okay.
site plan itself also? No, okay.
And I think I have some of them from the actual.
I took some pictures of that, I believe,
Okay.
different times.
You've had no trouble with parking before, right?
No.
Okay.
Morning, Sunday, Saturdays.
There you go, sir, thank you.
Just want something when you actually look at this day, and then you guys reviewed it after that?
Yes, and there was a question about the number of available parking spaces versus the code and the ability to turn a vehicle around.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that sounds,
remember this one.
remember that now. The turnaround one.
And I'm not sure if this is how it's still set up over there. Are they all angle parking now? You might want to direct them.
No.
No, they're now 90, it's 90 degrees on one side now.
Two on the other side, yeah. If you look at the picture that was.
So you have 6 and 2?
Yep.
So you have 8?
Yeah.
I don't have it reviewed. I don't have it reviewed.
The lot you just mentioned that you have right across the street, is that the one behind 2 doors down, or do you have another?
No, I have another one also.
You have another
You
one
should've seen that
also?
before you
Is
did
it directly behind this, or
Right next to, they're both
It was
side by
terrible.
side.
So why can't we just do that?
50 feet, 100 feet, maybe?
He wants to put
Not than 50 feet?
another right there.
Just treating it like that.
And there's nothing on that property but just parking?
Yeah.
It's helped the town a lot. Unless he's short one.
Are any of the 6 perpendicular spaces reserved for people with disability, or are they all standard, open, available? Okay. Are they reserved spaces, or is it just
No.
anyone who comes in at that point comes in?
Yeah, they can park.
Okay.
I mean, I know my truck's sitting there, nobody ever uses it.
That looks like the diagram, the floor diagram. Michelle, the only precedence that I know of is my precedence, so I might have to refrain some comments on this. I don't know if you remember mine, but it's almost identical, so I might have to keep some of it out, but.
The code, the ordinance says 2 spots per equivalent dwelling unit. We don't talk about whether it's 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. So it's
Right.
2 spots per. Based on that would be 10 spots. Now, if he has property within a certain amount of distance that can be used for this, that's also allowed in the code.
Right.
Well, he got permission from someone else's
Yep.
property.
The only part is if I sell the property, the passing of the approval for the apartment
Is
is
rescinded.
based on the future lease being approved by the new purchaser. So if, you're right, it was, before I was on the board, I was in your position on the very similar, putting a basement in a building in town. And the final resolution that we came to was, even if we allowed, let's say we allowed you to park in the lot that you own behind it, if down the road you desire to sell the building, and this is all just based on precedence, I'm not making any motions, or I'm just making prior comments. The approval for the continual use of that basement apartment would be based on the new owner being given a lifetime lease on being able to park in that property. So one thing that popped in my head was to have you adjoin, deed-wise, have you adjoin the 2 pieces together, and that would resolve your situation. I lost the bid. I was in the bid for the parking lot with Ray, that was buying it from BB&T Bank, and Ray won the bid, so that's where I lost out on the parking.
The difference
But-
is your property, my property, I also have town parking and church parking right next to it. Okay, which is always empty.
Right.
The town take care of 90% of the time, the other time I'll go back clean up myself.
The,
So you
the,
didn't have no options there, I could
Right.
have more than one.
Right. And then, right.
the current
so-
code, though, does indicate that you need to provide adequate number of spaces on
And then that we can,
property.
there's three.
Now, you do have an interesting situation where you have another property which you own and is relatively immediately adjacent, certainly within a reasonable walking distance for those units. And there's always the possibility that the town code could change at some point in time and address studio apartments as something slightly different than a standard dwelling unit, which may or may not change the position that you were in, Scott, or others may find themselves in. A little bit concerned that you don't have an ADA accessible space within there, and it looks like you probably could fit it in there. It would just be a matter of signing and
The
reserving
first one I
one.
can make it if I have to, that's what you see there, so it's possible, allow
Yeah,
that. yeah.
Just as a general statement of concern, that since you do have a multifamily dwelling there, you may want to look into that a little further with your code people
Yeah,
at some
what
point.
happened was, it was existing building, that's why they never make me do that. Otherwise, if a building goes scratch, they will make me do that, yeah.
Any
So we
mod-
kept the same
any
old
modifications bring new codes along
Yeah.
with them, so I'm
Yeah.
just telling you, you may want to
Okay,
make sure of that.
I mean,
that-
this will be perfect, and the bottom one is street level, yeah.
Yeah, it may
And
be a
the
perfect
proper
use for it.
36-inch entrance door on it, yeah.
I just don't want to see you get in trouble with
Yeah, absolutely.
something down the
Thank you.
line.
Thank you.
So the width of your lot provides how many public parking in front of that building? 3 or 4? What's the width?
Which building?
In front of this building?
On 30 is like 2.5 spaces,
Yeah.
maybe 3 if you stretch it.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, the public
How
parking
much
on
public
30
parking
right
do
in
you
front
have
of your
right in front of
building?
your, in front of your
Which is part of the
building?
reason why.
I'm just wondering if you have 2 or
Three.
3.
Yeah, three, yeah.
Okay. So before us tonight is a request to allow the additional dwelling unit. The BZA had previously allowed them 5, and we'd cut them down based upon parking. Would they currently have to go back for a new BZA case, or we can make a motion? Okay.
Essentially modify your site plan.
Okay.
to allow
Yeah.
Okay. I do not see a reason why, based upon the circumstances before us with the adjacent lot that's there, that we could not approve the 5th unit. I would suggest that whatever motion is made, that there be caveating language that should the adjacent lot be sold or developed, that approval for the additional unit may be subject to a use and occupancy permit that could be revoked in the future. Just so there's no question about it, or should the town code change, it would become a moot point. I would highly suggest that an ADA space be added so that there's no issues in the future.
I'm not going to disagree.
Nope.
Any other discussion?
The only discussion is he's got those 3 lots, or those 3 parking spots right in front of him. And if I remember it, because at one time I had that part of the code memorized, it's within 175 feet. Michelle, you don't have your code book here, do you?
What do you need to know?
Isn't it within 100, does the public parking in front, does the Route 30 parking in front of him count?
No.
No,
No,
it does not.
And the additional parking that he would have to be within 100 feet of the.
Within 100 feet of the property,
Okay,
which this is well within
Yeah,
that
that makes
that
sense.
distance.
all right. I was trying to take the condition out for you, but I think, I have no objections to anything you said.
And I just want to make a note for the record, though, he will have additional fees to pay for an additional unit like we did the first four. And I'm not sure, I just have to show, we're not sure if the new code is applicable to him or whether
The new
he
water
would go-
code?
Or whether he would be grandfathered based on the 5 units that we're doing previously. Not sure. But he
You
will
mean
have-
based on him having to pay the old water fee versus the 14.5? That's a big difference. We should probably,
I know, we're not sure exactly what that'll be, but there will be connection fees and hookup fees to add an additional unit.
Would you like to find that out first before we move forward?
No,
I mean, we
Okay, I
approve,
just-
we can make an
okay.
approval and he can determine if he wants to do it or not.
Right.
Okay, just be sure, offer him the opportunity. Okay, that's
it
fine.
would be based on the old fee, but, go ahead.
Let me ask a question as it relates to that. When you did the renovations
09,
in 0809,
yeah,
did you do all the interior work related to the electric and plumbing whereby it could be converted tomorrow, so to speak? Or
Yes.
did you leave it with just the
It was
floor?
all done, sprinklers, everything was all done back then.
All the sprinklers are in, there's plumbing fixtures already installed in there.
I believe when Mr. Van Halen first put it in as an owner office
Yes.
area.
Mm-hmm.
So it's existed pretty much since the beginning of the building.
And so there were improvements done down there which would have established an existing water fixture that would currently reside within our accounting, that unit's already taken place.
yeah, that's true.
He's hooked,
It wasn't technically an equivalent dwelling unit, which our
Okay.
code says EDU.
it needs to be.
This was an office that he put in because it wasn't supposed to be
So
rentable,
it's,
it
so
wasn't
it's,
livable.
so it's a partial,
Yeah, it wasn't a full E EDU.
so then there may be a partial fee there, possibility as well, I mean, to give some
I'm
flexibility.
really not comfortable opining
Okay.
on what that fee is
Okay.
gonna be
Right.
right now.
Okay.
Because.
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
Right.
3 minutes ago, I hadn't said that.
Okay. I make motion to amend the previous site plan approval to allow the 5th dwelling unit as previously approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals with condition that should the adjacent parking no longer be owned or used as a surface parking lot, that use and occupancy permit will be rescinded.
Want to read it back just to be sure? Did an awful lot of
I
writing.
tried to make that one, I tried to make that one
You guys
short.
ever just made a small, short motion? I don't
Can't do that.
Okay, I got a motion to amend the previous site plan approval to allow 5 units at 3173 Main Street as previously approved by Board of Zoning Appeals, conditioned upon should the adjacent parking no longer be owned or used as parking, the UNO will be rescinded.
Sounds like it, I'll second it.
Okay, motion on the floor, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very good, thank you. Okay. I don't know how we got the 7 items on this agenda, Michelle. I think we have to have a discussion with the mayor over this. This is a rather long agenda. It's almost a whole piece of paper.
We end up with the Garys.
That's right, we end up, okay. Gary Business Center, Site Plan Storage Facility Edition.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
It'll be very simple.
How come I can't believe that?
Very quick.
Quick. Couple plans for you guys to look at.
believe you're all familiar with what we're talking about. Mini storage, number 3321 Main Street. Best kept secret in Manchester. Someone you know where it is.
I guess we don't need it anymore if it's a secret.
Secret shop. Basically, little history, we sold the mini storage a couple years ago. The building that was there is a 77 by 40 foot building. There's 14 units in it. We've been doing pretty well with that. We've got a lot of people that are utilizing that. Some of our tenants in our facility are utilizing that, as well as town people. And what's basically been happening is we're getting requests for more storage. So we're here before you today to request putting up another building. The second building you can see marked on there would be a 40-foot by 80-foot building. We went before Board of Zoning Appeals, and they approved it with some conditions. Basically, they were the same conditions we had when we put up the initial building. We have submitted our plans to Carroll County. We're waiting to hear comments from the different agencies there. As you can see, it would utilize part of the existing blacktop. The front of the building would be up to the existing blacktop. That's a normal situation in many storage facilities. The area around the other three sides, it's our intention to do that in impervious concrete. I don't know, I assume you guys are pretty familiar with that. We've looked at that. We've talked to Mr. Covington over at Carroll County and gave us a lot of information about that. Michelle had recommended that we talk to John
Breeding.
And we actually had a meeting with John Breeding and Clayton Black last Friday. Very informative meeting. He explained a lot about how the county works. He explained about things that can be done on your end and how things work in general. Apparently Michelle decided that it was to go in their court as far as the site plan. It's our understanding from him that that is something that you guys could have approved. But we've been over talking to him, and we're actually in the process of contacting an engineer to look at, I believe Mr. Black said that one of Michelle's main concerns was stormwater management. Prior to us even starting this whole second building, we went over and spoke with Mr. Covington. Told him what we were going to do, told him what our plans were, what we thought we wanted to do. He was actually very excited. He was very excited and happy to see some growth, happy to see that a business is succeeding and able to provide services to the community and its neighborhood. We showed him what we did as far as stormwater management with the first building, which was a 10 by 10 by, I think it was 12 foot deep. They call it a pit or a box of rocks, some people call it. Driveway. All the drains from the building, the gutter drains go down, they go through underground pipes, and they go into that dry well. He said that's probably what we would get you to do again. Seems very straightforward. He was, when we started talking about pervious concrete, he was very excited about that. And I got excited about that because I think it makes a lot of sense. He informed us that there was some of that down at the high school on the back access road. And we went down and looked at that, and that's really nice. I think that's ultimately the way to go. Because it's my understanding that when you do that, it's basically like no disturbance at all. The water just goes right through it. There's a little bit of additional cost on the initial installation of it. You've got deeper stone layment underneath. And he did mention that, I can't remember the time frame, but there is a bit of maintenance cost that needs to be done. I can't remember whether he said 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, but it's basically where you get a bobcat, a skid steer, or something with a sweeper on it to come along and sweep that surface again and make sure that it's still open and porous and the water can get through it. So that's kind of where we are here right now, and I guess we're just wanted to get it before you. Michelle Osterland had explained to us during the BZA that we could kind of get both these processes going at the same time. And we have the BZA. Yes, we have the BZA. I don't know if you guys have copies of that.
Yes, we do.
Yep.
So you're seeking conceptual approval, or
Is this just for informational
Is
purposes
this
only?
for informational purpose or site plan approval?
Yes, I'm
It's
not
in-
really sure, because I haven't seen a site plan lighting, you know, in all development. And the reason I was concerned with them going to the county, in addition to the building permit, which does cover a little bit, you know, of these areas, is because it specifically said in the BZA this time that because of the addition, they wanted it subject to a site plan review by you guys, which you did in the past, and all the applicable agencies in Carroll County. So that's why I directed you to go ahead and speak to John Breeding, because there's a little bit more involved putting it through a site plan review than just getting the permit.
Okay.
And maybe that's where I lose a little bit of, or I gain a little bit of confusion, I should say.
Confuses me.
I gain a little bit of confusion because basically what we're doing, what you have in front of you is basically what we used before, both with the county and you guys. When you submit the building permit process, all the different agencies, the fire department, grading, stormwater management, the electrical, which the building that we're proposing is identical to the building that exists. There's no interior electrical, it's only exterior lighting, there's no plumbing, there's no heat, there's no air conditioning. It's all just drive-up units, just like what's there before. I don't know if you've driven by and seen it, but
But all the departments check in.
Yeah, all the
ADA,
departments give you your-
Fire marshal, and stormwater management. And the first time, it was over at the county, they said, this is what you need to do, put in a dry well. And we're confused as to why it's different this time. I still don't get it.
Well, for one, the stormwater management regulations have changed since your initial building was installed
Significantly.
significantly.
In 2 years?
Yes, whole new approach.
Well, that's odd, because Mr. Covington,
Doesn't mean they may not approve what you're proposing, but the manual has changed.
well, he suggested the same
Well,
thing.
that may be the
would
case.
probably be what would be required. Yeah, he didn't commit to that, but as we figured, he's gonna make his comment on the building permit.
right, wouldn't it?
Two years ago, the current stormwater management ordinance from the state of Maryland was in a draft form. And most local jurisdictions had more or less figured out what it was they were going to require people to do and started saying, this is the direction we're going. There's a very formal process that the state requires local jurisdictions to follow as it relates to stormwater management at this point in time, which did not exist 2 years ago. It's essentially the same technologies, but it's a whole different series of steps we have to go through. Not exactly sure why site plan was a little more detailed last time, other than it was a minor disturbance. I do have a couple questions though about this plan I'd like to ask. This would be all interior storage, no exterior storage, no RVs, boats, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
Okay. There's what appears to be a property line going right along the edge of the building, or maybe through the building. Are those separate parcels, or are they separate properties, or is that just an old line?
They're taxed separately, but it's all on one deed.
It's all in one deed,
All on the
okay.
same property.
Just want to make sure we weren't going to get ourselves into a setback issue where we're going to have to give you
Right.
another
Yeah, we looked into
variance.
that early on as well, yeah.
Okay.
And we were told that something had changed from 2 years. Now we're required to have a firewall. I think over 2,000 square feet firewall.
Yes.
We have our building plan reflects that. They built that in, cover that.
Is there a fence, there's a fence around the current facility?
Correct.
So the fence would be expanded,
Extended that.
incorporate that as well. So that would need to be shown on the plan as well, where you plan on moving that to. Obviously, it's not a fence which is within the general guidelines of town of Manchester, so it would have to be approved by the town for that type of fence, which we would incorporate within a site plan approval, should we grant a site plan approval. We wouldn't leave you hanging for, have the property, but you can't put the fence up. obviously business is going well, so you're expanding. Do you know of any traffic issues going in or out of here between the other adjacent businesses which are starting to pick up business as well and their access on to 30?
Yeah, absolutely none. One of the big advantages of mini storage is people don't go there every day. They don't go there during rush hour. They don't go multiple times during the day. Mr. Black had mentioned that he had talked to State Highway about this. State Highway had no issues whatsoever, just because of this work.
It's a low-traffic generator.
Normally it doesn't, but I just want to get all the various things that may be an issue out there at some point in time. Obviously, these are also very, very flat facilities typically. They don't work too well on steep grades. And it appears that you've got a couple feet of grade change here, so your disturbance is going to go a little bit beyond the porous concrete pad that you're showing, which is fine. You've got plenty of room, it appears, to tie out before you get to an adjacent property, so there shouldn't be any conflicts with any of the adjacent owners. Has the town heard of any disturbance calls in that area? Does anybody recall? No? No issues have come up? Okay. All right.
I walk that area day with Gary's, and it's a nice area.
Oh, it's a very nice facility.
Yeah, they did a nice job. They promised us a nice one when they did the first one, and they stuck to their word on it.
And I applaud you for proposing to use porous concrete.
Yeah.
It truly is a wonderful thing. It does require maintenance. Some people end up having to vacuum it, as opposed to like a Bobcat. It's more of a vacuum to get the fines out of it, keep it from clogging.
A vacuum, okay. Yeah, I thought it was like
Yeah.
one of those.
No,
Oh, it's like the billy goat sweeper things. I mean, it's a super industrial vacuum to
Right.
suck all that grit up out of there.
well, Bob, I can assure you, the young Mr. Gary and his daughter will be out there doing it themselves on a Sunday.
He'll buy a machine.
He will get one because I see him out cutting grass.
Oh, I know.
You know,
I
they're
know.
out there doing all their own maintenance,
Yep.
so if
That's why it
he
looks
has to
good.
do it, he'll do it.
Right. And that's why it looks
Very
good.
That's right, exactly.
One thing you should
And now he
see,
can serve a snowball when he's done.
one thing you should see is that tractor that's been parked there for a couple of days. That's a unique tractor.
It's standing by, waiting to get started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like we can offer a conceptual approval at this point, or recommend that they proceed forward at this point? I mean, because we don't actually have an application before us.
Site plans only have two anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, you can go ahead and say preliminary, but I would like to bring back all the comments that, and I told them, and they'll give me copies of whatever
Okay.
they do get.
Yeah.
Because I just showed Michelle, there's a whole new, I didn't copy it to show you, but they came in with this commercial permit process, which I've never seen before. I've never seen this. I don't know if that means that they're
The
doing
county's,
a mini review on these things, if that's
Yeah.
recently been changed. I don't know. But I'd like to see what kind of comments you do get back, because we get pretty extensive ones with a regular site plan review.
Sure. And I think part of what maybe is different in this case, I'll use the word different, is because it's a real simple building.
right.
I mean, literally, it's a metal,
No.
erector set building.
Yeah, no water, no sewer.
No water, no sewer.
No interior
You-
electric.
Exactly.
No trash.
No trash. Yeah, I know that was one of the comments, I don't think in this go-around, but the very first go-around from Board of Zoning Appeals is, trash, and we have dumpsters there on site for the regular tenants, but it's in my lease with people, and I tell everybody, those are not for your use. You need to take everything with you when you leave. And I tell you, it's been an interesting deal with it. I've got people in there that have been in there for a long time, and they love it. And I kid and say it's the best kept secret in Manchester, but I've had numerous tenants tell me that they're there because that building is there. One, for being close by, and traditionally in the mini storage business, the guy's got the new one up there in Melrose. And I tell people at this point, hey, give him a call. I don't want to be up there, it's too far away. People want to
Yeah.
store their stuff very close to where they live, and a lot of people are, very happy to see that here in town.
So I guess at this point, we just wait for the comments, and we'll see what they say, but I mean, I think generally we support what you're doing. I don't think there's any big issue from our end at this point. Okay, see the comments.
Yeah, well, once we get those comments, we'll get them to Michelle and give them to you guys.
That's fine.
And then we'll meet again, and you can give some final, like, whatever landscaping you'd like to see, or the landscaping, or the lighting,
Right.
the little issues of where they'll be. But I don't think we need any motion.
No, I only have one little side question. Do you have plans for like 40 more in that back part of the property, like in the future?
You know, in the big scheme of things, my intention is to let the business continue to grow, and I think the economy and the demand is going to dictate that.
Very good.
Will you tell us when you get on Storage Wars, so we can at least come down and be part of that crowd?
Not only will I tell you, I will call you up so you can be in the background.
That's all I want to do. I just want to make a bid and walk away, that's all.
That's right.
Thank you very much. I
50
appreciate
cents.
it. That's right. I don't even know if I have that much left. Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The whole unit, you know, whatever's behind door number 3 is the first thing, but I don't want.
Okay, well, productive meeting tonight. Thank you all very much. I believe with no further business,
I'll
Michelle,
make a motion to close the meeting.
I'll second that,
Second.
it's long enough.
good night.
Good night.